welcome to Who Wins Episode 3, Battle Number 3. It is Marvel versus DC today. Green versus green. We have the Hulk versus Martian Manhunter. Very interesting battle, like I say. It's green versus green. Green versus green, Marvel versus DC. The first Marvel versus DC battle, and I'm pretty sure it won't be the last, judging by the competitors we've got coming up. So, a very interesting battle to look at today. We have represented the Hulk and Martian Manhunter on the slideshow behind me, and of course, we've also got the comics over here, which, like, I haven't got anything to really represent like the Hulk and the Martian Manhunter. Like, of all the kind of comics and whatnot I've not really got anything with like them on it, unless I went through every single like individual comic I've got, which would take years. So I'm not going to do that. So I've sort of represented them by having like an Avengers graphic novel and a Justice League of America graphic novel. And of course both these competitors today have been a member of their respective teams. Hulk has been in the Avengers, Martian Manhunter has been in the Justice League. So, you know, it fits. So yeah, big battle today. As you can see, my associate, Mr. Kennedy, again not here. It is Mother's Day in Britain today, and he is spending the day with his mum, which is fantastic. You know, I'm all for that. I'm seeing my mum later. You know, but he has again been replaced with my Pikachu in his Pokeball outfit. He's also got a Charizard outfit, so I might like swap it over at some point. You know, if he carries on not appearing. But yeah. So there we go, Pikachu. Some might say they prefer Pikachu, you know, but there he is, regardless. Well, quickly before we start, because obviously these videos are about the battles and everything, but I do want to talk about general Geeking news that comes out during the week. And one thing I do want to talk about, because it's fucking very important to me, and you know, I was having a bit of a geekgasm earlier in the week. For anyone who is a Stephen King fan, you may be aware of a series he did called The Dark Tower series, which is like his big 7-book series. That's the 7th book in the series, The Dark Tower. He has announced this week that the Dark Tower film is official. It is official, and it's been cast. Idris Elba has been cast as the main character in the book, Roland, who is the gunslinger, and Matthew McConaughey, the fantastic actor, one of my favourite actors, is playing a bad guy in it. The Man in Black, also known as Randall Flagg. It's such good news. I had to get it out there because, like, it makes me so happy that we're going to see these characters come to life. It's like my favourite book series of all time. So I wanted to get that out there first. But we will get on with this battle. If you have seen the previous episode, please carry on voting, because votes are important in this whole thing. Last week, of course, Buffy versus Witchblade. The week before that was Daenerys versus Katniss. The votes are still open. Please vote on those videos. But this week it is Hulk versus Martian Manhunter, and we will start by talking about the two characters in question. So the Hulk debuted in Incredible Hulk #1, which came out in 1962, created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, I think. Obviously, a big character these days. Everyone knows who he is, the big green bastard of the Marvel Universe, in the Avengers and all that. In terms of I mean, the story basically goes that obviously Bruce Banner is a scientist. He has an accident. He has a problem in his lab. He's trying to save someone, I think, in the original origin. He's trying to save someone. And he runs into some gamma radiation. Basically, gamma radiation hits him, and for whatever reason, because we all know that gamma radiation does this if it hits you, it turns him into this green monster. And basically, every time Bruce Banner gets angry, he turns into a big green monster. Basically, so the more he gets angry, the stronger he becomes. It's that whole sort of you don't want to make me angry type deal. Because the madder he gets, the stronger he gets. And the Hulk is impossibly strong. Like, this guy, there's a lot of debates out there on like Hulk versus Superman. You know, who would win the fight between Hulk versus Superman. Superman is, you know, probably one of, if not the strongest guy out there, basically, especially in the comics world. Certainly way up there. Hulk could definitely give him a run for his money. He's very powerful. Some people have argued that he's stronger than Superman. There's been quotes, I think there's a quote in one comic, I think it's from like Uatu the Watcher, who's one of the characters in Marvel Comics, says that the Hulk is like, his power has no limit. It's not a finite power, I think is the quote, or something like that. Like his strength it has no limits because it's based around his anger. The angrier he gets, the stronger he gets, and he has this impossible strength. He also has durability. He's very durable. He can endure a lot of stuff. He's got extreme sort of stamina and stuff. He can keep going. He can leap ridiculous distances. Like I think one comic in the past has shown him be able to leap across continents and stuff. It's like ridiculous. So he's very kind of. So he's got all this going for him. Not the quickest guy in the world, obviously, but he's got that strength. He's got that power, and regenerative abilities as well. I think he can do. He can heal himself. He's been shown to be able to do that. Also, from what I read, he can resist psychic control as well. Has been known to resist psychic control in the past. That could be important when fighting an opponent like the Martian Manhunter. So the Hulk has a lot going for him. But that's basically all you need to know about the Hulk. Let's move on to the Martian Manhunter, the DC character of this battle. Just quickly as well, the arena, we're just going to say city again. Like, who wouldn't love to see, well, not in real life, but like if you watch it on screen, who wouldn't love to see like a city just be destroyed by these two? So yeah, a city it is. And yeah, the Martian Manhunter, so who is he? He first appeared in Detective Comics, which is the Batman comic. He first appeared in Detective Comics 225, and that was in 1955, so he's technically a few years older than the Hulk in terms of how long he's been around. The Martian Manhunter, he's kind of a bit of a fringe character in terms of he's not the guy you think of when you think of the Justice League. Obviously, you know, Superman, Batman, Green Lantern, Flash, Wonder Woman, all those guys, like they're sort of the main guys you think about when you think of the Justice League. Martian Manhunter is kind of the guy. He's very popular within comic circles. Like a lot of, if you're into comics and into DC Comics, you will know the Martian Manhunter, and odds are you will like him because he's one of those characters that's very beloved in the comics world, but he's yet to kind of make an impact in the mainstream. Like not many mainstream people know him like they know Superman, Batman. Obviously, he's had no films about him or anything like that, so that has an effect. He has, however, just appeared in Supergirl. For anyone who watches the Supergirl show, I've not seen it yet. I'm trying to catch up with all the DC TV shows. I'm watching Arrow at the moment, so I'm trying to sort of go through them all. But he has just appeared in Supergirl, or he's yet soon to appear in Supergirl, one of the two. And no doubt we'll see him at some point in the DC movie universe. Hopefully, anyway. He's a fantastic character. One thing about Martian Manhunter, though, his power set is a bit confusing. I mean, I'll go into his origin first. Basically, he's a Martian, obviously. Martian Manhunter. He's from Mars. Originally, when he first came out, he was just part of the Martian race that I think he got trapped on Earth for whatever reason. But sort of later on, his origin got changed to be basically he's the last Martian. Sort of like Superman, he's the last of his kind. Martian Manhunter is the last Martian. And he saw basically his whole race get wiped out. So that's obviously a lot of like links into a weakness he's got, which we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, so he's the last Martian basically, the last of his race. Obviously that has an effect on him. He's a big green dude. Obviously you can see him on here. That's the guy, big and green. Not big on on the level of the Hulk, but quite muscly as most of the heroes in the DC universe are. So yeah, Martian Manhunter, in terms of power sets, he's a bit of a confusing one because basically he kind of he can do a lot. Like I've literally had to write them down on a piece of paper because he's got that many powers. Like he's one of those heroes that like throughout history they've kind of just given him powers to kind of go with, to fit the plot. Whatever they're doing, they're just like, oh shit, we need him to do this thing. Well, just give him this power, we're just giving the power to do this now. Kind of like Superman in a way, like Superman picked up all these powers just simply because they needed him to for the plot points and stuff, to move the plot along. So yeah, he can do a lot of things. He's got like enhanced strength and stuff and all those kind of stuff. he can shapeshift. So the shapeshifting abilities he can do, he can kind of change his appearance, but I'm not sure if he can do it to the extent of like looking like another person or anything like that. I think he can though. But basically he shapeshifts in a way that enhances his abilities, so he can shapeshift his skin to basically become invulnerable. Like it changes the density of his skin, so he's effectively invulnerable to a lot of things. He can change his density of his skin to become intangible, so he can phase through objects and stuff like that. He can become invisible by doing something along something with his, with his shapeshifting skills that make him become invisible. I don't know the details. Regenerative abilities, he can regenerate. Apparently, one time in the comics, he regenerated himself from a severed head, like it was just a severed head, and he just regenerated his whole body. Like, yeah, well, you just cut my head off. Well, guess what? I can just regenerate. I don't know how long that took mine. He can breathe underwater, things like that. So he can sort of shapeshift to enhance his own abilities and stuff, enhance what he can do. I think, can he fly? I want to say he can fly. I'm sure he can fly. Well, no, that's yeah, alright. It's fine. Right, so one, he's got mind powers as well, so he's a telepath. He's a very powerful telepath. Sort of probably the main, if anything, one of the main powers he's got. Probably the main power. Telepath, he can project thoughts into other people's brains, he can read thoughts. So, someone like the Hulk, he could read his thoughts, that kind of thing. Could help, obviously, in a battle when you can work out what the opponent's going to do next and that kind of thing. Project thoughts into other people's brain, however, that could be difficult with the Hulk because, as we've discussed, so, because he's got that resistance to psychic control. He can, apparently he's got like brain blasts, he can shoot sort of energy blasts and stuff. Stuff like that. He can create illusions, shields to protect himself, and telekinesis is another thing he can do, which I assume is what he can do when you talk about flight. Yeah, he definitely can fly. Yeah, so telekinesis, so moving objects with your mind, that kind of thing. He's got X-ray vision as well. So yeah, a lot of powers this guy's got, Martian Manhunter. Which is why he's kind of one of the more underrated heroes of the DC universe. Obviously, as we've discussed, like, he's not as well known, but he's also very underrated. Like, people don't really think of him as kind of right up there with the big boys. However, in one of the comics, Superman has been known to say that Martian Manhunter is the most powerful being. I think it was either on the Earth or in the universe, one of the two. So Superman himself has said that. And we know how powerful Superman is. So this guy, like, is way more powerful than people give him credit for. I think that has to come into play when he's fighting the Hulk. So people might see this battle, people might see the like Hulk versus Martian Manhunter and think, well, that's a bit one-sided. Like, Hulk's going to kick his ass, kick the shit out of him. But actually, it's not as clear-cut as you think. Martian Manhunter is a very powerful character. A lot of DC characters are. That's the thing. Like, DC has a lot of very powerful characters. Martian Manhunter is one of those. A lot of times he'll be used as like a Superman stand-in. So if Superman's not in the book, they've got him in a different story, whatever it is. Martian Manhunter will kind of be treated as like the Superman stand-in because he's got that power level. He's an uber powerful character. So it's a very interesting battle. The one thing about Martian Manhunter, and this will come into play when fighting the Hulk undoubtedly, he does have a bit of a weakness for fire. Now, apparently this stems from, as the story got retold and stuff, and in the sort of modern day version of his origins and stuff, it came from the fact that he saw his planet burn. So he saw Mars burn, and so because of that he's got a bit of a phobia of fire. It's not a weakness as such in the same way that Superman has a weakness to kryptonite. It's more a phobia. But then, yeah, so it's more of a sort of a phobia in the recent like it's been changed a lot over the history. Like, it was a weakness where it was actually weak. It was actually a weakness like kryptonite. But I think the more recent comics treat it more as like a phobia, which we'll go with that because that's sort of where the character stands at the moment. So he does have that weakness to him, which the Hulk could exploit. Whether the Hulk's going to be clever enough within the battle to exploit it is a different question entirely. But I mean, at the end of the day, you're in a massive battle in a massive city. There's going to be explosions. There's going to be fire all over the place. How is that going to affect someone like Martian Manhunter? That's the interesting thing. In terms of this battle, I mean, I don't know what to think about this one. It's a hard one. It really it's a tricky one because the Martian Manhunter can do so much. But the Hulk has this impossible strength, so maybe it's going to be down to the Martian Manhunter staying away from him. Because, as we know, the Hulk can resist psychic control, so that's going to be a big factor in this battle. The Hulk isn't necessarily going to be affected by the telepathic abilities of the Martian Manhunter. But then the Martian Manhunter is a very powerful telepath, so maybe he could get through. In the same way, probably someone like Jean Grey could get through to him from the X-Men because she's so powerful. But like I say, the Hulk's got that strength. It's a hard one. It's a really hard one, this one, actually. Because I think I sort of lean towards the Hulk, but if the Martian Manhunter can stay at a distance and use the range attacks he's got and use the other strengths he's got, then it's not going to be as clear cut. Like the Hulk is not going to have a difficult time. But then you can maybe say the more angry Hulks get, the stronger he gets. So if the Martian Manhunter pisses him off by using these range attacks and stuff, that's only going to make the Hulk angrier. And he's so powerful. So I'm stumped on this one, in all honesty. I'm a bit stumped. I'd like to hear other people's opinions, so please get involved. I will end the episode there because there's not much more to say about this battle. So yeah, please vote, get involved. Vote in the comments below. Write the name of the person you think will win in those comments, and of course after a certain amount of time, whatever amount of time ends up being, they'll be compiled and we'll get a winner out of this. Otherwise, if we don't get enough votes, I'll probably just figure out myself. I don't even know what I'm going to do if we don't get enough votes. But yeah, so please get voting because it will be awesome to get some results. Thank you for watching this week on the first Marvel vs DC battle. Of course, before we go, I do need to draw the next battle, Battle 4 next week. Battle number 4. Out of my Marvel bag, which I use for work and shit. As I say, this has got all the competitors in it on these bits of paper, but I've printed them off because, you know, production values. And yeah, let's see what we get. Is it going to be another Marvel DC? We'll see. Battle number 4, which will be decided next week, not decided, but discussed next week, is interesting character. You may well have seen the films. Hellboy. Hellboy, character from comics. Dark Horse Comics, I believe, who of course has had a couple of films in the last 10 years or so, which I'm sure a lot of people have seen. Hellboy. Interesting character, another comics one that we're going to get for the second. So it's Hellboy against... Ooh, okay, it is all comics again. You know, that's an interesting one. Okay, Hellboy versus Rogue. And if anyone doesn't know who Rogue is an X-Man. She's in the film, so I'm sure a lot of people will know who she is. A very powerful, maybe another slightly underrated X-Man, I believe, in terms of the power level she has. That's a good battle. Hellboy versus Rogue will be next week's battle. But this week is, of course, the Hulk versus Martian Manhunter. Please vote below in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I guess we'll see you next week for battle number 4. The Hulk, Martian Manhunter. Who wins? You decide.